I had a great time. I don't know how you felt about it, but
who needs Patrick? Oh wait, we're still recording.
Who needs Patrick? Frick.
Just kidding, Patrick.
Patrick, we love you mostly.
You're listening to the Janchi Show, hosted by 3 Korean American adoptees diving headfirst into what it means to be adopted, Korean American, and more. And now, here's your hosts, Nathan, Patrick, and KJ.
Welcome back to the Janchi Show. It is I, Patrick, one of your hosts, here with Nathan and KJ, 2 of your other hosts.
Je suis KJ.
Hola. Yo soy
We are global.
Nathan.
We're a global podcast.
Yodelboom
Check out our
and
transistor stats. Actually, don't, because that means you've hacked our system. You've hacked our system.
Don't be a mean
I
person.
should have said me llamo. I forgot, me llamo, Nathan.
There you
Forgetting
go.
all my Spanish.
It was a good correction.
Thank you.
Anyways.
We are back for another episode, episode 32. First off, I just wanted to say thank you to everyone who listened to the last episode and reached out afterwards. It means a lot to me. It meant a lot to Nathan and KJ too, I believe.
How dare you speak for me?
I know. That's why I said believe. I put a caveat at the end.
No,
there.
it's fine. You can speak for me.
Meant a lot to the show. So I just that was great. But we're back to business as normal for now. So Nathan, why don't you tell everybody what Janchi means?
Janchi. I was just explaining this to somebody else recently. It is not spelled like the name John and Chi. It is Janchi. But you probably know that because you're looking at it on your thing. But Janchi is about feasting and celebrating our Korean heritage. Because we are 3 Korean American adoptees, and we are diving into what it means to be Korean.
Nay.
Having some food.
We have a really great show for you today. Amee Finigan is here, host of the Monolid Diaries, and I think it's pretty great. I actually don't know because I wasn't there. So
And that's why we made Patrick lead into this.
Jeez.
spoiler alert! Spoiler alert for the interview. Patrick isn't there. But before we get to that, just wanted to check in today. I know we were going to talk about something, and I think it had to do with names.
Nope.
No?
We're talking about the flag.
Oh, we're talking about the flag for this one. All right. But before we get to
roll
the
into the interview, yeah.
I got you, bro. I got you. I'm a professional now. Amateur.
Semi-pro.
This is Yahoo Patrick.
This is Patrick Armstrong of Yahoo News fame.
Yes, you
Not a
may
good
have
follow-up.
seen Patrick Armstrong in such news sources
Okay.
as Yahoo News, Huffington
Also,
Now I know
Post,
what's going to be at the beginning of the episode.
Clubhouse.
Clubhouse,
Oh, you guys.
and Instagram Live.
But before we get to the
Zanga.
interview, wanted to have a little conversation about the Korean flag. I think on a previous episode, we talked about how Nathan very kindly bought us a bunch of stuff and sent it to us as a surprise. And one of the things in that box was this book about Korean culture, the Korean Culture Dictionary. For our listeners who cannot see what I'm doing, I'm holding the book up.
And don't worry, it is written by a Korean.
And it is written by a Korean, Woo-sung Kang. It's been really interesting to dive into, and one of the very first things they talk about is the flag. And I know KJ brought it up and really had some thoughts about it. So KJ, I'm excited to hear what you think about what you learned from the Korean Culture Dictionary. About the flag.
I like that you
About
look
the
down. You're
flag.
like from the.
I forgot the name.
You're like reads teleprompter. What are we talking about?
So how do
Ron
you know how to?
Burgundy?
Does it talk about how you pronounce the Korean flag?
Like what it's actually called?
Yeah,
It's pronounced Daeguki.
Daeguki.
Teguki.
Yeah.
Teguki.
Yep. It's all soft. I mean, there is technically a K that's written, but it's basically all soft G sounds. Daeguki. Yeah, I thought it was really interesting. A lot of the books that I've been reading, I recently read one, My Name Was Kyoko, and Pachinko, which both talk about Korea during the Japanese occupation. So I'm always kind of fascinated about the Korean history, and because South Korea as a nation is so young, and just kind of thinking about forming that. But I think the thing that was fascinating to me was so it references the Joseon U.S. Treaty of 1882, and they were like the Joseon dynasty, which is the one that was the last dynasty before the wars and occupations and all that stuff. Back when Korea was still unified and like all that stuff. So, anyways, they didn't have a flag, and I was like, oh, interesting. And so that was where that came from. So there's this standard for the dynasty that has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 trigrams. That's the 3-line markings around kind of inverted circles. So from a really early standpoint, that the trigram symbols were important. The yin yang in the middle is important. I learned at some point in my life about like the yin yang and the 4 icons around it being like just it all representing balance. I think the thing that really stuck out to me was that red was the positive forces of the universe and blue is the negative forces of the universe, just because in the West, red is often associated with negative stuff because the devil and stop and all of that stuff. But in the East, red, at least in what I understand of East Asian cultures, red is a symbol of like prosperity and wealth and positivity and power. I don't know. So it's just an interesting thing. So yeah, I thought that was really cool. And then they also talked briefly about the North Korean flag as well, called the Ingongi, meaning the flag of the People's Republic. So yeah.
Yeah, I thought one of the things that I found most interesting was just the evolution of it. I think you touched on it a little bit, but just how it changed from 1882
Hey, talking
in that
to your
short
microphone.
time. Oh, am I talking away from it? Well, my waveform, I'm coming in really hot, so I was trying to back off a little bit. But yeah, I just thought that it was really interesting the way it evolved from the front, from 1882 up to what is currently present. And yeah, I thought what I really resonated with was all the meanings behind the symbols. I think every time growing up looking at it, it's like, oh, that's interesting. But it's like I don't know what those things mean. Even like yin and yang, like not really understanding what that was for a long time. But
Oh, really?
yeah, and like not really understanding it. I don't think. I think I always kind of got like the positive, negative aspect of it, but thinking about why that's important, especially thinking about the history of Korea specifically as a country torn apart by war and by a lot of really bad stuff, and thinking about how this flag can have so much meaning, and that's I think what really stuck with me is how it just changed over time, and how I feel like what I've learned about Korean culture, it's a lot of internalizing, but in a good way. I think it's nationalism in a good way in some respects, and sometimes it cannot be so good. But I think I like the symbolism behind that specifically before having known about all the symbols. But knowing the history gives it a little bit more personal touch, I guess.
I really like you said, the yin and the yang part of it. If you guys noticed, our logo is very similar to the yin yang of the Korean flag.
Reminiscent of the Daeguki.
Reminiscent. It's
Hey, Gookie. Say it, Nathan.
It has the
Daeguki.
red on top, the blue on bottom, but the yin yang and the other symbols are, like you said, kind of just opposites in a way, but they are together. East, west, north, south. Was it moon, earth, heaven, sun? All that stuff.
I think so.
Sky and sun.
Sky, sun. Okay. But yeah, it's just, it's very united. I really like that about that flag. It has just so much more meaning, I think. Not that I don't love the American flag. I do, because it has meaning too, 13 colonies and all that stuff. But this one seems to have just more deeper, like spiritual meaning to it.
I think, yeah, it's really rooted,
Yeah.
I think that's like, like rooted in earth and rooted in like that blend of earth and sky, that there is a sense of like heavenly bodies and like kind of that celestial greater cosmos thing that I think is really beautiful. Sorry, what were you
And
gonna
it
say,
talks
Patrick?
about balance too, and I think it speaks to how it's balanced across like the actual symbols itself, and how each of the different, what are the things?
Trigrams.
The trigrams, yeah. Anyways, just talking about balance and how, because of how much tumult the country has faced, like how important balance is, and seeing here that the white representing Korean mind, I think having learned more about Han and how that is such a powerful and deep concept in Korean culture, thinking about the flag and what it means about balance and how it connects to everyone in Korea, how you can have such strong emotion or feeling or a collective sense of lost identity that we experience as adoptees, and particularly being from Korea, we carry that generationally, like within ourselves, in our DNA. So it makes a lot of sense, and it makes sense for the flag itself, for there to be like a tangible symbol that you can look at and feel that sense of something. So even like as a kid thinking about it, like not thinking of it as probably still eliciting some sort of emotion or reaction even at that time.
I think the thing that always struck me was like the 4 trigrams like are so striking and bold and strong and rooted, and knowing that they are, whether it's directions or celestial bodies or whatever, sun, sky, moon, land, that kind of thing. Like, yeah, that they're striking and they're strong and they are, even thinking about Korea being a mountainous region, I know even when I go to a place with the mountains, how rooted and safe and secure I feel when I see those on the horizon. I know that not everybody feels that way about mountains, but for me, it's nice to, when I see those. But then there's such a beautiful kind of flowy thing in the yin and yang, in the middle of that. And so there is like this, I think, even just from my interpretation of it, kind of a masculine and a feminine energy, and that like the whole flag would be off balance if any one of those things was missing, that it is like every part needs that, like it's not the flag without if something is missing. And so I've always found this, this comfort looking at it, in that it is strong and graceful and beautiful and like powerful and all of those things, and really calming and rooting. So yeah, it has been a point of pride for me for most of my life. So it's nice knowing some further history about it.
Comforting is a good word to describe. I like that. I would agree with that.
Yeah, and like you said, without the 4 trigrams, things wouldn't work together. How it goes through all these different meanings of celestial body, seasons, directions, virtues, family, natural elements, and meanings. So again, like the seasons, there's 4 seasons. So, spring, autumn, winter, summer. There's 4 directions: east, south, north, west. There's the heaven, fire, water, earth. The meaning is an interesting one too. I like the meaning and the virtue ones. Those I need to look into that a little more. But the meaning, justice, fruition, wisdom, and vitality. I wanna look into that a little bit more. I think that's kind of cool to see that they've put so much thought into it.
I think it's interesting too. Like the book talks about. I know that you're reading from the internet for kind of some extended readings, but the book talks about.
Spoiler alert.
The
out me right there.
Dude, it's a both and. Okay, this is the balance.
Yeah, that's
okay,
true.
This is Nathan. You may not remember, but when we were younger, there's this thing called books, and okay, we didn't all have the internet, even though I've had it my entire life.
Yeah, I know we had encyclopedias. If I wasn't reading from the internet, I would be reading this to you from an encyclopedia
from a tome.
Britannica.
Yeah. No. Anyways, so my book says the white. It says Korean minds. The bright white color represents national characteristic of loving brightness, purity, and peace. But I also know for some East Asian cultures, and I don't know if this is true in Korea, but that white can also be death. And so for as much as like it is brightness and purity and peace, it is also death, and that there is again kind of some balance in the extended cultural meaning of that. And I'm really curious because I guess white is really important to Korean people, and so foreigners nicknamed them the white-clad people, and I haven't gotten to that part in the book, so really interested in knowing why I guess that's so important to Koreans. But it said that white was a really prevalent color for hanboks in the 19th century, so looking ahead to digging into some of that quote-unquote more recent or just different type of history. So yeah. Anyways, that was a briefish discussion on the Korean flag, the taeguki, which means, I should say, taeguki means supreme ultimate flag, which is just like so great. So
I do feel supreme and ultimate when I see it.
I mean, yeah. I don't obviously know a bunch of flags, but the Korean flag is one of my favorites simply from a design standpoint. I think it is really powerful and great. And the American flag is fine. Honestly, I preferred the original one with the 13 stars and a circle as opposed to the 50 ones now. So hot take. I think we should go back to that. Anyways, let's move on to where we cancel Patrick. And
yeah.
Patrick leaves. We sit down. Nathan and I sit down with Amee and get into this interview. And Patrick doesn't come back ever again. But yep, that it is what it is. Life happens. And
you got him for the intro.
Yeah. So on to the interview. Here we go. Roll the tape. What is up, everyone? That is the sound of me, KJ, celebrating that he got his second Hello Korea box. Let me tell you, it is fantastic, okay? I got this little head scrunchie that keeps my very long hair out of my face when I'm washing my face. JK, but if I did have long hair, it would be amazing. We got new face masks. We got, this time not stationary, but a whole journal. We got more pens. We got a bracelet from BTS Army. Guys, this box is incredible. So, if you want to pick up your very own Hello Korea box, feel closer to Korean culture, get products from food to K-beauty to K-pop, then please go to HelloKoreaBox.com and use the promo code Janchi15 to get 15% off of your order. That goes to support Hello Korea Box, goes to support the show. It is just supporting people all around, supporting two of your new favorite brands. Well, one of your old favorite brands and another of your new favorite brands. You decide which one it is. Anyways, HelloKoreaBox.com, Janchi15 is the code. That's JANCHI15. And your checkout to get 15% off of your order. Now, on to the show. Welcome back to the Janchi Show. We are here with very special guest, Amee Finigan. Amee, how are you doing?
Hey, I'm so good. How are you guys?
Yeah, great.
Doing super good. Amee is actually so special to the show that Patrick couldn't make it. That's not true. That's not a direct cause and effect. Patrick is here. He's just very silent, and you won't ever hear him during the interview portion. That's also not true. He just couldn't make the show, but we're powering on without him. So, anyways, yeah, he was just so flustered. He's like, I don't know that I can do this one. So
he's just gonna have to listen to the episode like everyone else.
No, actually, he and Nathan got in a fist fight, and I decided to bench him for this one.
Virtual fist fight. Yes.
Yeah, it was really nuts. Anyway, sorry, Amee. Let's kick off this like we kick off all of our interviews with our guests. Will you tell us a little bit about your adoption?
Yes, definitely. So I actually just looked at my records and report a couple days ago, but I was born in Busan, South Korea in 1985. And then I was sent to the Seoul foster home. I was there for a few months, and then I was adopted at 4 months. And I know a little information about my birth parents, not a whole lot. I know the ages of my birth mom and dad. My birth mom was 19, and I believe she worked as a factory hand. And then my birth father was 20, and he was in the Korean military. And when I was reading through my records, it said basically that I was an unplanned baby, and then they relinquished their parental rights. So one thing, though, that I've always found really interesting is that in my records, it says that my birth mom actually named me, which I know is a bit rare for birth moms to do. So she named me Songmi, and I hear it either means beautiful flower or beautiful tree, one of those meanings. But I've kind of always held on to that, and I just think that I don't know, it just means so much to me that she took the time to actually name me, and I think it just goes to show that, it's obviously a very hard decision on her behalf, but I never really felt like that growing up. I always had quite a lot of anger and resentment toward my birth mom until I was in my 30s is when I think things started to change for me. So I was adopted on March 17th, 1986. St. Patrick's Day is my gotcha day, which is interesting because my dad is Irish, so we always have a big celebration, and we have Irish food, but we also have Korean food. And then there's this very epic video of me coming off the plane. And so we watch it every single year. And
are you in a giant green blanket?
I am in a green blanket.
Really?
Yeah. Nice. I am in a green blanket.
Wow.
I mean, it has some other colors too, but mostly green. Yeah.
There you go. No one's pinching anybody today.
Yeah. So yeah, kind of interesting. It's kind of serendipitous. So my mom, she was told by the doctors that she couldn't have any kids. And 4 years prior to my adoption, she got pregnant with my brother. And we call him the miracle child. So my parents went through Holt Adoption Agency, which is based in Eugene, Oregon. And so then I arrived on March 17th. And I just think it's very serendipitous because my parents found out that they were going to adopt me on my mom's birthday. And also I have 2 cousins that are also adopted, but from the States. And they were adopted both on March 17th as well.
Wow.
So kind of coincidental there. So we have, actually, I have an interesting story of my arrival when I came off the plane that I always tease my brother about. And it's somewhat true, somewhat not, but I don't know why I always tell it like this. So I came off the plane and immediately my brother comes up to me and wants to say hi, super excited. So he has this rattle and he starts shaking it in my face. And of course, I start crying and wailing and I'm just really upset, obviously. And I had slept the whole flight. And so I was rudely interrupted.
So you were understandably angry.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yes,
It's like, some
understandably.
fool is
Right.
shaking a thing in my face.
Yeah, who is this guy? So he was shaking at my face and then I started crying. And then he looked at my mom and he said, I think we need to take her back.
Yikes.
Right.
And he never lived those words down.
Exactly.
No, he's never lived them down. But to be quite honest, so my brother and I, he's 4 years older than me. We are extremely close and have been my whole life. But if you know him, he did say that, but he didn't mean it in such a crass way. Like he's very, very overprotective older brother. But he's really been more like a third parent to me in some ways. So I don't know. It's kind of telling of his personality, but I just like to kind of rub that space a little bit. Like you did that, you said that. You'll never live it down. Interestingly enough, when I was about 8 months old, I was actually diagnosed as a hepatitis B carrier. And so for people that don't know what that means, basically, I have hepatitis B virus in my blood, but I don't show any signs of being sick or anything like that. The reason why I'm bringing this up is because at a certain point in time, around 8 months, my mom became very, very, very ill. And I had actually passed it on to her, and she became very sick. And that's when we realized that I was a hepatitis B carrier. So that was around July of 1986 when my mom was diagnosed. And my parents immediately called the Holt Adoption Agency and they were just, obviously very upset and explained the situation. And they were upset because they weren't advised to do any blood testing and they were concerned that they weren't testing for hepatitis B in Korea at that time either. And so at that time, Holt had actually offered to send another Korean adoptee to come and live with me and my parents to take care of me because my mom was out of commission for 6 weeks or so, very, very ill. So in a sense, very early on, my bonding experience was a bit interrupted on several occasions, and especially in the first year of my life. So for me, I've always had a lot of issues with attachment and bonding to other people, especially in like romantic relationships. And I feel like I've always been a bit afraid to get close to people, even on a subconscious level. So I think that obviously does have some part to play in that. And I didn't even know till recently that that Holt had sent somebody out that was actually a Korean adoptee to take care of me for those 6 weeks. But yeah, so that's kind of my origin story background.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
Thank you for sharing.
Yeah,
And
of course.
you stayed in Oregon this entire time?
I have not, no.
Oh, okay.
So I grew up in a suburb outside of Portland, Oregon. called White Lynn. It's not. It's called West Lynn, but very, very white community.
Subtle dig.
Yes.
Yeah, sorry. So as far as my family life goes, like my parents are incredible, amazing, very supportive, encouraging. As far as my social life and growing up in West Lynn wasn't great. And I was one of 2 Asians in my school. And thinking about this recently, actually, the other Asian that was in my school was a male Korean adoptee. And I wanted nothing to do with him. You know, I tried to stay as far away from him as I could. I just wasn't ready to identify with that part of me. I feel like, you know, I was in denial for most of my life. I feel like things changed for me when I turned 30. But growing up in West Lynn, it's also a pretty wealthy community as well. And I was bullied quite a lot throughout middle school and high school. And I remember several instances of being bullied, and like my next door neighbor shouting out, "See you later, brownie," or even in middle school when I had like my first romantic relationship. And do you guys remember when AOL Instant Messenger came out?
Yeah.
So
not when it came out. I'm a little too young for that, but I definitely was. I was definitely on it for sure.
I feel very
Screen
old.
name Kang the Fang. So
I don't remember what my screen name was. I think it was like Psychic Me 21. Ooh, I can't believe it. Anyway, so yeah, the first relationship I was in, we had a lot of conversations over AOL Instant Messenger, and I remember when we broke up, he was just typing all these really nasty things. But one thing that really stuck with me is he said, you know, like, F you, slant-eyed bitch. And I really, really stung. It was the first time that I was like, is there something wrong with me? Like, what's going on? So I just very vividly remember that particular, you know, situation. And then, you know, in middle school, I was bullied quite a bit by, interestingly enough, males. I was never bullied by females. It was always males, and it was mostly over the internet. So I guess that's when that started to happen, obviously, because that stuff was coming out. So I think what that did to me is, I know that it really silenced me. And up until I turned 30, I felt like I had no voice at all. And even in my family life. So like I said, I love my family. They're wonderful and amazing. But my brother, being who he is, he takes over conversations. And so even growing up at the dinner table, I remember I would just be silent. And I remember playing club sports throughout middle school and high school, which is something I really love to do. I did volleyball. I also was a horseback rider as well. And I think I was drawn to horses because I didn't like people. They treated me poorly, and horses are really sensitive and they don't talk back to you. So I just had this really strong connection to equine creatures from a very young age. But I do remember when I was younger getting bullied a lot, and also me not having a voice, like literally not having a voice at all. People would come up to me and say, "Are you mute? What's wrong with you?" Because I didn't feel comfortable, not only in my own skin, but I just didn't feel comfortable in general. And I didn't trust people. I didn't trust anyone. So that was most of my life. I felt very detached from like the real world, and mostly just kind of a ball of emotions, all different emotions, not really happiness, but a lot of anger, mostly anger, sadness, were the primary emotions that I felt growing up.
yeah.
Yeah.
So jumping to a really hard-hitting question.
Yeah.
What style horseback riding did you ride? Did you ride Western, or did you ride the other one that just escapes me at the moment?
The other one.
Yeah.
I've actually,
where you stand up on top of it.
vaulting. No. I've actually ridden all different kinds of disciplines. So I've done English. I've done
English. That's what it is. I was like, it's not
Dressage.
European, but yeah.
Yeah, which
That's the
is
dancing horses one.
It is, yeah. It comes from a military background, but
I know that one.
the dancing horses, yeah. I've done jumping. I've actually done endurance riding as well, which is just like really long trail rides. So I did a 25-mile endurance ride when I was 24, I think, which was a huge accomplishment. It was really fun.
My legs hurt just thinking about that. So
yes, I have super strong legs from riding. So, but yeah, those are really great memories I had. And I actually started a horse training business. Oh gosh, this is like 10 years ago, I think. And at that time I had 3 horses, and I just sold the last horse that I had this last year in the pandemic. So
gotcha.
it was sad.
Yeah.
I was made for horseback riding because I'm bow-legged.
What?
You're welcome.
That is the first time I've ever heard somebody say I was made for horseback riding.
Oh, that's not what it says for? Oh, I thought I was genetically meant for,
I don't think so.
for riding horses because I always have. Hey, we're going back to that gait thing again where we were talking about it. My knees
Maybe your gait is kind of similar to horse's gait. I don't know.
my knees don't connect, so I always thought that would be great. I've only actually been on a horse twice, so
Have you? Yeah.
yeah. But I always joked I was a cowboy because I was raised in Oklahoma. I joked that I was a cowboy at heart, but yeah, only rode one twice, so I don't think that's true.
That's really funny. So I'm curious. Okay, so actually jumping back to something that you said. You said that the only other person that you remember growing up who was Asian was also adopted, right? And I'm curious, you said, I wasn't ready to identify myself with that. When you say identify yourself with, was it the Asian part of it or was it the adopted part of it?
Good question. I think it was both, but I think it was mainly the Korean part of me.
Gotcha.
Because like I said, my mom has blonde hair, and she actually told me when I was very, very young that I think when I was like around 3 or 4, she told me that I would stare at myself in the mirror and just kind of examine myself and look at my features and try to figure out, even at that young of age, like who am I? But when I was in middle school, I started to become really, really self-conscious about how I looked. And I hated all my Asian features, like my monolid eyes. That's why my podcast is called the Monolid Diaries, because I want to celebrate it now. But I really hated my physical appearance so much. And I would get ready in the darkness. I would turn off all the lights. And I've always been into makeup, but I couldn't face myself. So I would literally get ready in the dark for many years of my life. Yeah.
So tell me, take me to the point when things changed. What, like you've said, like, I mean, this is not to shortchange it, but like you do have a whole podcast about it. So people like want to hear in depth about your story. They can go listen to that, which we'll talk about a little bit later. But I mean, you've got so many things that, and you've alluded to it a little bit, right? That things started to change kind of around when you hit 30. But what was that impetus moment where you're like, I need to, whether it was a conscious decision or just like a kind of a gradual building point, what was that moment like? And what was going on in your brain?
Yeah, I think it all started after high school when I left for college. So I went to Hawaii Pacific University in Oahu, and I was there for 4 years. And that was really, I mean, when I was younger, I went to a Korean adoptee camp for a week, but that was really the extent of my exposure. So when I was in Hawaii, it was just like Pandora's box. Like I had never experienced that kind of diversity ever before. And it was a shock, but it was also like I felt very accepted by my peers and everyone around me for the first time, which was also a very strange feeling. So I think that kind of spurred that part of me that wanted to connect with my Korean side. But again, my 20s were incredibly rough, and I was still just trying to find out my identity as a female, as just, a person in general. But when I was in my 20s, my mid 20s, I was diagnosed with social anxiety and also a premenstrual disorder. And so at that point in time in my life, I was suffering with a lot of mental health issues. And again, just a lot of anger and sadness. And I was really, really desperate to find peace. So it was rough from, I would say 25 to 30, also was in a really horrible toxic relationship that kind of set me back a little bit. But I came back to Portland, I think in 2012. And when I entered into my 30s, it was a game changer, like I said. I think I realized, like, I've made it to 30. This is a milestone, but also I am so unhappy. I'm like really, I'm not a happy person. And it was affecting a lot of things in my life and relationships. And I had never had strong relationships before, friendships or otherwise. And I really wanted that to change. I mean, I think I tried to just stay away from people because I thought it was easier. But what I realize now is that it's so special to be able to connect with people. And that's really what life is all about, is making those connections and forming those relationships. So right before I entered my 30s or around that time, I feel like I just did a whole revamp of my life, like really dove in, really looked deep inside myself. And I was like, I can't live my life this way anymore, So I changed most everything in my life, to be honest. I started working out every day. I started eating better. I started going to therapy. I started connecting with other Asian Americans, which I had never done before. And then that just kind of opened the door for me from that point forward. And also, this last summer, starting my platform for adoptees and then also launching the podcast has really taken me to a whole other level in terms of being open and accepting who I am and wanting to share that part of me.
Yeah,
That's
right on.
great. Yeah, thank you for sharing all that. I mean,
Yeah, of course.
I think it's an area that I think a lot of adoptees probably tackle with their own lives, where they are unhappy about something, and the only way to change it is to change it themselves. And that you have that knowledge to do that, and kind of come out and say, okay, I need to change these things up to be happy again, I think is great. And a lot of people do it based on, a change in their life, a job, sometimes something sparks it with a bad relationship, or, for me, with my job changed it for me. I quit my job back in 2007. And ever since that point, things have just been moving upwards and better and stuff. But the job, although not a horrible job, there was just things about it I didn't like. And it wasn't, it was one of those 9-to-5 jobs. I wanted to be more in control. So
Definitely.
And so that's great that you did that to change yourself. So I had a question. It was specifically more along the lines of the Hawaii experience. You were there for 4 years then?
I was there for 4 years.
4 years, lots of Asians. Japanese,
API,
API stuff. I mean, it's a different feel. I love Hawaii because I used to go every year, and I have a fond memory of a lot of the things. But one funny thing is, I never really, when I was in Hawaii, I never felt like I still belonged with the Hawaiian Asians. Did you feel that kind of that way as well? Because you'd been raised in Oregon, and I was raised in Oklahoma, so again, always around Caucasians.
Yeah, it was interesting. They kind of, I don't know why, but they accepted me as one of their own. Like they actually thought a lot of them thought I was Hawaiian because I'm a little bit tanner. So I don't know. I felt, that's what I mean. Like I just felt so accepted in that space and in that community. It really has a special place in my heart. And I went back, oh gosh, I don't know, maybe 4 or 5 years ago, but it's totally changed now. But the whole college experience for me was a really, really positive, great experience for me. I mean, compared to, my high school and middle school. That's so great. Yeah.
Yeah. I loved it. I love Hawaii. And I had a similar feeling when I came to California. It's just all of a sudden, diversity everywhere. You have more things to relate to, more people to talk to about certain things. It definitely opened my eyes a lot to the Asian diaspora and everything. So
yeah, well, and I think being able to see yourself reflected in, like visually see yourself reflected in other people, whether that's in person or in photos or in real life, like that's a really powerful thing. And oftentimes, from the stories that I've heard, I feel like we transracially adopted adoptees don't usually have that same kind of reflection, especially if we're Asians, adopted into America. It's funny, I was going to make a joke. This is true, but the joke is I always think of mosquitoes whenever I hear Hawaii because of Lilo and Stitch. But I realized, so I made this joke in my head. I was like, maybe I don't say it, but I was like, why do I think about Lilo and Stitch? Like, I probably haven't talked about Lilo and Stitch at all. And then I started.
That's the first thing that comes to mind when you think of Hawaii.
Well,
Wow.
yeah, I mean, it's Lilo and Stitch, but I realized like I talk about that movie a lot in specifically adoptee and Asian American spaces. And I think it's because it's set in Hawaii. And that was like, even like more than Mulan, which I love more as a movie. Lilo and Stitch gave me representation of specifically Asian American like cartoon characters and people, that I was like, oh, I can get down with this. Like they're definitely American, but like they have this like Pacific Islander, vibe to it and all that stuff. And it's like, oh, and maybe that's why I gravitated to it.
Yeah.
Anyways, I thought that was interesting. So, okay. Amee, you mentioned something briefly about starting your platform, which I'm assuming is your Instagram account, right? Aesthetically Amee.
Correct.
Is that
yes?
okay?
Correct. Mm-hmm.
So my first question, kind of leading into that, which I think was answered by your story, but where did you learn to do makeup for yourself?
And
I guess in the dark.
I was
Apparently,
gonna say in the dark. that's how
Like,
good
dang, I
you
look
are.
good.
Apparently, you
Yeah.
can do it in the dark.
No, I mean, I've always been into makeup, but haven't really come into it until the last couple of years. And, just there's so much access with YouTube and other platforms out there. But I really wanted it to be specific for Asian Americans and adoptees as well. I just know for me growing up, there was nothing like that. I had no one to look up to when it came to makeup. And again, I was surrounded by all my white girlfriends, and we'd go to prom or winter formals and we'd get our makeup done professionally. And I just remember I would be so mortified when I would leave because
They didn't know how to do it.
no, they didn't know how to do my makeup at all. And I would look
Yeah.
insane. And there's nothing I could do about it. And my friends didn't know how to do my makeup. I didn't really even know how to because, I didn't know how to work with my features. So that's really, what spurred the platform and me wanting to do a beauty-centric type of thing. Yeah.
Right on. I wish Patrick was here because I guarantee he has a good makeup story. But in lieu of that, he just seems like that kind of guy.
Yeah.
Like
You're
Patrick
right, he
wearing
does.
makeup? Or
Yeah, exactly. Or like Patrick, applying makeup. Yeah, whatever. I'm sure he has a good makeup story. We'll talk about that later.
He's
But
not
I
here to
would just
defend
briefly say,
himself.
I did theater some in high school. It's kind of like in and out of that. So I wouldn't ever classify myself as a theater kid, but I do remember specifically one show that I was doing. I was for whatever reason, I was really excited to have makeup, like stage makeup put on me to help me like I felt like maybe because we didn't have like a true costuming department. It was just all on our own. And I have a bad relationship with costumes. I was like, makeup will be the thing that helps me get into character, help me feel like we're doing a show and whatever, not just me delivering lines that I have memorized, and being really depressed because my friends who were like trying to do my makeup, good on them, I guess. They just quit. They didn't like try to like ham-fistedly apply makeup to me, but they were like, I don't know how to deal with your eyes. I don't know how to do your makeup. Yeah. But I remember just being like kind of let down by that. I was like, oh, that's unfortunate. And that being, I think for me, that was like one of the first times that I realized that Asians' bodies are different. Being physically disabled, I was like, oh, of course my body is different. But like, I think that was just a precursor to Asian bodies are different. And then like even moving on to other types of skincare or hair products or like haircuts, all of that kind of stuff. I was like, oh yeah, the Asian body is different. Just like the Black body is different. Just like, but just not even being aware of that. So yeah, I'm really excited. I have loved looking through your Instagram feed. You're really talented makeup artist.
Thank you.
Just like
Thanks.
from like really subtle things to really like crazy and big and fun experimental kind of things like that. Like it really, from what I saw, like just runs the gamut of like really just having fun. So talk to us about Aesthetically Amee and what your mission is and your hope for that platform is.
Yeah, that's really what it's all about. It's about having fun. And for me, makeup started out as one thing, but at this point in time, it's super therapeutic for me. And it is in itself like its own art form. I don't know if you saw, I did for Halloween, 30 days of Halloween makeup, 30 days in a row of, pretty intense.
I think that's the stuff that I was seeing that I was like, oh, this is out there. This is very cool.
So after that, I was like, no more, never again. It's not happening. Yeah, that was pretty intense. But as far as my platform goes, I feel like the beauty part is important, but I am kind of trying to move away from that a little bit and focus on the podcast. And that's really what I'm passionate about right now, is amplifying the transracial adoptee story and voice. I just think it's so important, and why not if you have a platform to do so? So that is really my mission, and my goal right now is to get as many stories out there as I possibly can, just like you guys. So
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, and you're on your third episode now, and with that third episode, I guess with the intro episodes and stuff too, but you got big Kevin Creator on there for from Bling Empire. How was that?
Yeah. Oh, he's such a sweet guy. Yeah, he's really awesome. No, he's great. He kept his shirt on the whole time, so that's good.
Man.
Or not, I don't know.
I mean, it wouldn't have mattered. It's an audio medium. So.
True. I just meant for me. I don't know. But yeah, he was super cool, and I loved hearing his story. And I'm just so thankful that he was available and able to speak with me and come on the podcast. So I hope everyone enjoys it. Yeah, I'm excited. Yeah, I just feel like it's been a long time coming. I've had a rough couple last months and a lot of life changes. So I took a little bit of a break from it. That's why there was kind of a long lag in between the intro episodes to Kevin's episode. But now I am back and ready to go. So yeah.
Nice. Well, I'm just happy that there are platforms like yours and like some of the other guests that we've had on the show that are getting the adoptee voice out there and telling stories and, telling about the information that some of us don't even know about because of the, we're adoptees. We don't really, most of us don't know a whole lot about Korean culture or history or food. And so that's really great that that's out there. And, along with your aesthetic, aesthetically Amee Instagram and things like that. I mean, it's you have lots of different avenues to express yourself. So that's great.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. Thank you for that.
I'm so curious, and I don't think I listened to like 1.5 of your first 2 episodes, I think. So you might have actually touched on this, but it's funny that I know that you bring this up in at least your first episode, but to go from someone who was misconceived as a mute to hosting your own podcast, and I think I think what else is interesting is not only that, but kind of going back to your Instagram account, like for somebody who was getting themselves ready for life in the dark and not wanting to associate themselves with like their own Asianness or whatever, and then coming to having an Instagram account where literally it is your face time and time and time and time and time and time and time again, I think that shows such great transformation. So what else has changed? I mean, obviously you said, like a lot of things have changed and you did a lot of work, but there's a lot of, I think, more than just changing the ways you eat. Like there's been some real soul work, some real, mindset work to get from really those formative hardship years to where you are now. And so what's brought you on that journey? What's been like the most helpful thing to get you to where you are?
Yeah, what's your secret?
I'll let you know right now.
Just one thing. Just one thing.
Yeah. So let me tell you right now, my whole philosophy on life is exposure therapy for myself. Like I'm just going to do it, because that's the only way that I can get past or through these things, these struggles. And that's what I've done. But when I came back to Portland in 2012, I feel like this is definitely one of these defining moments in my life. And I started working for an Asian fusion restaurant, and all the employees there were Korean. And again, one of the first times that I was surrounded by Koreans, you know what I mean? And so after my stint there, the restaurant went out of business, and then all of a sudden, so I went to culinary school and I graduated that same year. After culinary school, I received an opportunity to purchase that restaurant for $1. Wow. And I couldn't pass it up, obviously. So I jumped on that, and I feel like that entire experience really propelled me forward to dive into, I mean, obviously exposure therapy at its finest, right? So I ran the restaurant. I was a general manager. I was the face of the restaurant, and I had to be on all the time. And it was like a 24/7 type of thing. I would never do it again. By the way, it was terrible. No, I'm just kidding.
I mean, if what I've seen of running a restaurant from Parks and Rec is anything to go off of, it does not look great. So as much as I would love to go to Tom's Bistro,
it's not glamorous. Yeah. It's not glamorous, but yeah, I learned so many life lessons, and I really feel that experience has made me who I am right now, because I had to deal with so many difficult things, so many difficult situations on a everyday regular basis. And also just dealing with people just being jerks all the time, you know, or being racist or just saying stupid things. So that was a huge, huge moment in my life. And that was when I was 26, actually. So I was pretty young. Yeah.
Sorry. I just was taking that in, and I was
good.
like, oh yeah, there's no Patrick for me to just like throw to for him to ask a question. So Patrick, if you could turn your mic on, you fool.
Where are you, Patrick?
I was envisioning that entire time though, as I'm thinking about food. Like she was talking about,
I know
what kind of recipes they had, and food.
Oh my gosh.
I'm thinking Asian fusion, which would have to be my favorite kind of style. So
the Asian fusion restaurant I worked at before, and then when I bought the restaurant, I remodeled everything and I turned it into a completely different restaurant. So it wasn't Asian fusion.
Oh, okay.
And it was actually American comfort food. Shocker.
Nice.
So actually, one of the most epic things on our menu was a yak burger that was locally sourced from Bend, Oregon. So that we kind of had some interesting things going.
Did you call it the Big Yak?
Yakety yak, don't come back. No, I should have.
Oh, no. I'm sorry, podcasters.
Now I'm hungry.
You can't be apologetic for your jokes. That's what people come for. It just went so far over my head that I couldn't even put it down.
Oh, you don't even get the bell.
If you commit to it, then you just got to go for it. You know?
You just got to own it.
But right before this, I actually had a big bowl of japchae from H Mart. It was really good.
Oh, japchae. Yeah, that stuff is baller.
You know what I'm saying?
We've been tempting to actually make it on our show one of these days.
Oh, yeah.
Whoa, I have not committed to making japchae.
No, not yet. But I'm
that seems very difficult.
No,
I don't know what goes into it, but like, yeah. Okay, you say it's noodles,
easy.
but like, I've not even made my own Italian style noodles, so I'm not ready to commit to that kind of lifestyle. Also, we found out that Patrick may or may not be a great cook.
We did not know that until today.
Yeah, we gotta ease him into it. So
I don't want to burn the house down yet. So
it's awesome. Well, Amee, thank you so much for hanging out with us. All this talk about food means it is probably time for us to switch to our food segment.
Yes.
So we're gonna take a brief break, and when we come back, we will be back with some type of berry cream snack from Crown. We'll be right back. We are back. Thank you for listening to that interview. We're jumping in with, I was mistaken actually. So when we cut to break, I said a Crown snack. Only Amee has a Crown snack. KJ, like, okay, I'm not going to refer to myself in third person.
KJ.
Anyways, I looked at my video square and saw my name in the corner and I was like, KJ. And I was like, nope, that's, anyways. So myself and Nathan have Orion berry snacks. Ours is called Huresu berry, which is Konglish for fresh berry. Amee, what is yours called?
Strawberry cream cheese.
Nice. That sounds delicious. I wanted to just say, because actually, so my wife and I got into this at some point because she Googled how to, so like the way to like that Koreans cheer each other on or like say encouragement is like fighting, right? But there's no F sound in the Korean alphabet. So the way that I had learned it was hwaiting with an H. Kind of, yeah, hwaiting. But she Googled it because she was like wanted to text it to me for whatever for that day. And she sent back piting, which as an American, makes more sense to substitute with a P with an F, but I guess Huaiting, and so now the Huesa Berry is the H and F substitution. It doesn't make that much sense to me, but that's just how some Koreans do it sometimes.
That makes zero sense to me. But
yeah, I don't know. But Huesa Berry. I was like reading it slow. It feels like a game of Balderdash sometimes when you're reading Konglish. You're like, Hure Sui. Yeah, and you're like, what does that say? So, anyways,
we critique everything about our desserts typically, and sometimes it's the packaging. I'm gonna just start off with, I really don't like that the red berries are on the red print, because for the longest, it took me a while. I can't even see that they're berries, strawberries.
Clashing.
Yeah, it just clashes. So that's a design.
I thought it was
issue.
really nice.
I'm
not gonna say it's age.
Prefer it to be somewhere else, but I think it's still going to be tasty. Don't get me wrong. I would
really
like
all
to
that
have
matters.
been, I would have liked to have seen more strawberries visible, I guess. And
You
it
don't
has
like
the
that red
little
on red?
open. Do you see the open
I
sign
do
there,
see
KJ?
that, yes.
Okay, good.
Sometimes I miss
you
it.
miss it.
That smells delicious.
Oh, it looks like a choco pie, but it's like strawberry.
Does mine have sesame seeds on it? Is it like a burger bun?
No, mine doesn't.
All right.
Oh, yours looks like, okay, so yours is a cookie. With like a nice desigin on it, and ours looks like a whoopie pie, or
Are you guys
what?
gonna eat the whole thing? Do you separate it? Like, what is your method?
No,
of
it's just
eating
whichever method is right for the way that you live your life.
Patrick just gobbles it down usually and eats the whole thing in one bite. The rest of us kind of nibble.
Ah, okay.
Wow. Okay.
Fresh berry.
Mm-hmm.
And not feeling it.
It's soft,
No.
like the choco pie, but I feel like it should be cold, right? Do you feel?
No.
Maybe it's because it's the whipped cream part in the middle.
Yeah,
Like I feel like
that's
it
the
should
part
be
that I'm not feeling.
Yeah,
I don't know.
Your cookie's good and crunchy though, and the cream cheese too.
Yeah, it's pretty flaky.
Or
and
is it more
buttery.
like a pound cake? I would say.
Yeah.
It's like a Nilla wafer that was also very soft.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
I feel like the proportion of yours might be off a little bit. Oh no.
For an American perspective, yes, but like this is pretty standard for Korean snacks. Dang it. It's got a crown on my trackpad.
I mean, other than the temperature and I think it's pretty tasty.
Do you do a rating, like 1 to 10?
1 to 5.
1 to 5.
Yeah.
Okay.
So go ahead with your cookie. Your cookie looked pretty good because it has both cream and strawberry in it, right? So it just looked like I don't know,
like
more
a vanilla
crunchy than ours.
Oreo.
Yeah, like a strawberry vanilla Oreo or
Delicious.
something.
Yep.
That was pretty good. Yeah, I kind of want to try that one now, but
Well, I have a whole
Me
box
too.
of them.
oh,
If you
there
would
you
like.
go.
Heyo.
Oh, okay, I get it. What would you rate
Nice.
yours as? Would you eat these again, or the whole rest of the box?
I would. But 1 out of 5, probably a 3.5.
3.5.
3.5. Okay.
Rough. Yeah.
Good.
Why only a 3.5?
Because strawberry filling wouldn't be my go-to, but I think that's just me. So maybe I should be a little more fair and give it a 4.
Well, was the strawberry filling itself good, or was it like a not good
No, it's good.
strawberry flavor?
It's good for being a strawberry filling.
Not too
Okay,
fake. Not
okay.
too.
No. Mm-mm.
Okay. KJ, yeah, I could tell you weren't feeling yours already.
Yeah,
so
so I don't know. It was like I was expecting, like you can feel it, like the outside. I want to call them buns because they were like soft buns. So the buns,
Sure.
they whatever, man. That's just how it feels to me. Soft buns were fine,
You
but
feel
then like
your
you go,
strawberry buns.
you
just go
bite
with
through it, and then there's like some cream, and it's also not that good. And like okay, here's
Really
the deal.
selling
When I think fresh berry. In my mind, I don't know why, I had been thinking mixed berry this whole time, which is the same flavor as my gummy vitamins. Okay. This is not that flavor at all. And I was like, well, this is totally unexpected. And then it was just like, yeah, I don't know. Like the cream texture itself was good and the flavor was fine once I figured out what it was. But the fact that I just wasn't expecting the right thing, even though we had literally just talked about strawberries on the package. Yeah, it just wasn't there. I don't feel like it was super strawberry as a flavor, which is why I asked Amy about yours. So I am going to give this 2 strawberries out of 5. Would not recommend, but I would not be angry if I had to eat these again.
Interesting. Okay.
KJ is also not a very sweet fan.
True.
So he doesn't typically eat desserts.
I'm a very angry fan.
I would be curious about Sarah's rating of that if you had left her any of it, but
Oh shoot, man! I just got in trouble with her today. She finally listened to the episode where I said on air, "Sarah, I'm not going to save you any because you're here." And she texted me. She's like, "Why did you save me any?" I was like, "That was like a month ago."
Sorry, Sarah, I didn't bring it up sooner.
Sorry, Sarah.
Well, I liked the consistency. I liked everything about it. The cream, because it's like a whipped cream type thing, I would have liked it if it was cold, but that's not their fault. So I'll give it a 3 3/4. It's not a
3 3/4.
I'm gonna go 3/4. Yeah, I almost went
Can you
up
give
to
it to me as a
4.
decimal just so
So
that I can have that as a-
3.752. I don't know, but it's
Okay, dude, let's get our significant figures straight. We do 2 decimal places maximum.
we'll go pi times 2 because it's like a little round pie. No, but it was soft and it was good. The flavor was tasty. I think the only thing holding it back was it was a little maybe too crumbly, like the texture of the cake part of it, the buns, as KJ called it, were a little too flaky, I think. Sponge would be how the British say it.
The
sponge, sure.
Yeah.
I think it was a little. If it was a little thicker, it would have been better. But I still liked the flavor of it. So, I like I said, it was really close to a 4, 3.85.
Dude,
Wait, can I
the
redo
more
my
that you
rating?
talk about it, you keep going up. It's really funny.
I need it with some strawberry milk.
I just realized that mine is very crumbly and it's all over me. So
I feel like Nathan has like a super sensitive radar for crumble factor because he has small children. So he's like, how much work am I going to have to do after my kids eat this?
Exactly.
Is that accurate?
How many ants are going to be in my house after somebody eats this? And is it going to be all over their face or the furniture? But
Amazing.
yeah, I liked it though. So like I said, I would eat it again. I still think Choco Pies are better though. So
All right. Hot takes by Nathan.
There you go.
Patrick,
Comparison.
it would definitely pass his 1 gulp test, which is the most important test of all. Amee, thank you so much for hanging out with us.
thank you so much. It's been so much fun.
Where can people find you on the internet?
Aesthetically Amy is my IG handle, and then the Monolid Diaries on the Anchor app podcast.
Perfect. So if you're looking for her podcast, look it up on any podcast platform where you find podcasts. It's the Monolid Diaries, maybe with spaces, maybe without spaces. We'll see.
We'll see.
If you can't find it, then try taking out the spaces and maybe it will be there.
You could also go to my link in bio on Aesthetically Amy, and it'll direct you
There you
straight
go.
to the podcast.
Perfect. That is much easier. So Aesthetically Amy on IG, link in bio for all of the important links that matter. Yes, thank you so much for hanging out with us again.
Thank
like
you
I said,
guys so
it
much.
was a blast, and for sharing your story. How do we end the show? Oh yeah,
you can find us.
Yeah. You can find us at Janchi Show on all of our social. I was literally like, how do I do this? You can find us at Janchi Show on all social platforms. You can send us an email to janchi@justlikemedia.com. Please take a moment and subscribe if you aren't subscribed, and leave us a rating /review on iTunes or Apple Podcasts, as that really helps people find us, and also lets other people know that we're worth listening to, which if you're listening to it, then I'm going to say that you think we are that. So thank you. You can find us on YouTube at Janchi Show. You can support the show at janchishow.com/support. Nathan, am I forgetting anything?
You can find us on Facebook and the After Party.
That's one.
We are available for chatting and a little behind the scenes stuff.
We're available for friendship.
We're Facebook friendships.
Yeah, it's mostly
Seriously.
food pictures, the occasional Korean holiday.
Occasionally,
How do I
KJ
say this?
sings a Korean cover song.
Yes, it's March. Yeah, my whatever next Korean cover song should be out. I don't know. It'll be 3 of 3. It's Future by Red Velvet, as heard on Startup, the K drama. So yeah,
You may
I
see me
forgot about
drink
that.
some stuff. I don't know. We got all kinds of things going on there. It's just the after party. That's what it's for. It's an after.
Absolutely. You can find me at KJ Relke wherever I want to be found on the internet.
You can find my professional site at Nowalk Photo on Instagram, or my personal one, which is just NNowalk.
And you can find Patrick at the World
In the
as
world.
Patrick
Somewhere in the world.
world. Yep. I know how to do this. This is fine. You can find him on, we're talking Clubhouse. We're talking emails. Well, actually, you can email him there. So Patrick in the World on Instagram and Clubhouse and SoundCloud, and also just Patrick Armstrong anywhere else that you want to go looking for him. Maybe just step out your front door and yell his name and he'll appear. That'd be amazing, actually. I should try that. Anyways, I'm going to go try that right now. And I'll report back to you next week. Until then, Janchi Heyo.
Bye.